everybody. It's Landry on the Debate. It's another episode of our 27th Letter podcast. Very excited about this one. About a few months ago, I met this lady, maybe a month and a half. She was speaking. She was part of a panel. She was speaking, talking about justice and the reform system and so on and so forth. And I thought it would be dope to sit down with her. And her name is Jordana Goldlist, and she's a criminal defense lawyer in the city of Toronto. And you guys know I don't play the lawyer game. You guys know. But I made an exception for her because I feel like, first, as a woman and what she stands for, I felt like I need to shed more spotlight on it because it's kind of, piggyback on some of the things I've been speaking on. And she's going to touch more on it. And we don't agree on everything, but, some of the stuff I agree with, So, go down and tell them who you are.
Thank you for having me. I think we've already agreed to disagree on some things, and that's okay. That's how we as a society grow, is through debate and through change. And if everybody thought the same way, we'd never be able to advance. So I'm happy to be on the show and talk about some of the things that interest you. We do have some common ground for sure. in our distrust of the justice system as a system. And I certainly think that as a starting ground, we've been on opposite ends of the system at some points, same in some ways, and we both share views that it really is designed to keep people stuck inside. And I think we're both trying to help people see that so they don't get stuck.
For sure. Before going, how was your week anyways?
My week was good.
Yeah?
My week was good, yeah.
Did you have any case
busy at work? Yeah, I just got a new very sad case, another homicide case where young teenagers killing young teenagers. So we're seeing more and more of that lately, but hoping to help them through the system.
Louis Marge, Zero Gun Violence, he said it the best. This epidemic, violence that's going on, it's really supposed to happen because of negligence of our foreparents, forefathers, grandparents and so on. So these things are going to happen. So but hopefully, you're here to kind of help these situations, find out the truth, because not everything is, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's not just the way it's presented all the time. It's always a backstory.
Yeah.
There's a story before the story. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, yeah.
And how was your week?
Well, I can't complain. Same thing. Children, family, life, cooking for my 5 principles cuisines. And and then just trying to get ready for this interview, which is cool. I got to listen to your past podcast. So, but I haven't been working out. I've been loafing on the working out thing. So I need to get back on that. I need to get back in the gym. I know you do your gym thing.
Oh yeah, at least 4 to 5 days a week. Yeah. I have to be in the gym.
I used to do three Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So, but got really busy, kind of neglected it, but it's so ingrained in me that I can't go too long without. So
no, that's like my favorite form of therapy. That's where I go to release the stress. That's the hour that I take for myself where I'm not actually like on my phone. I'm not responding to people. Phone stays in my bag and it doesn't come out on the floor with me when I'm working out because I need that space. But it's where I regenerate, right?
It's what decompress.
That's it. And it's like I leave it all out in the gym, and then I can give more in return.
And you need to balance. that.
Sure.
I remember I went to a lecture once where there's a doctor, she's a natural healer, and she says she works with cancer patients, and she goes home. She literally has to take a shower just to wash off their issue,
right?
That she doesn't want to carry with her.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there who might not know this. Whatever profession you're in, you have to learn to separate you are in your life and not carry it with you, because, no pun intended, you become a cancer in your own life. Just taking on people's stuff, And for you, dealing with all this traumatic incident, families and so on and so forth, I don't know how you don't carry it home, because just watching the news, I don't watch the news for those reasons, because it's like, I don't need to hear it. I know what's going on. I already been through it, so it weighs on my mind, anyways, seeing what's going on. So I can imagine how it is for you, just being on the forefront of it. It's another case.
For sure, but you have to be able to separate a little bit in order to give more of yourself, right? So if I personalized all my cases or let it, sort of fester emotionally, it would prevent me from doing the job that I need to do for my clients. So I think that you have to find ways to have that release. Mm-hmm. The gym's certainly one of them. The shooting range is another. I've talked about that as well.
Yeah,
and so those are the two things I do to really get out of my head for a minute, step away from that space, and then come back into it even harder.
Yeah, if you don't know, check out her Instagram. You see her with a gun. She don't play. You know what I mean? She likes her gun, so and that's another thing for me, for the women out here, this is what I feel. This is one of the things I feel. This is why even with Louis Marsh, when he's talk about getting rid of guns, zero guns, guns are not the problem. It's the people.
And actually, Louis Marsh is pretty solid. He's not against sport shooters and hunters. Mm-hmm. When I hear him speak, it's not about a complete handgun ban. It's how do we help get illegal guns off the street and out of the hands of people who aren't dealing with them safely, who aren't law abiding with those guns, because I don't think he's all completely against handguns in general. He wants to give the youth, especially, and young people, the support they need so they don't feel like they need to be picking up a gun illegally in order to protect themselves and their families.
Even if they did have a gun license,
right,
it still doesn't change nothing. We still got to deal with whatever.
That's what I'm saying. It's the underlying issues.
It's not
100%.
The fact that it's illegal guns. It's why are you thinking to go pick up a gun when you could talk to a man or talk to somebody or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know what it is because I've been in those shoes, so I know what it is. So, but yeah, let's get into it. Let's start. First question I want to know: who's your mother?
Who's my mother?
Yeah, who's your mother?
My mom's.
Where were you born? Toronto.
So I was born in Toronto. My mom is one of three children born to immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
They came here after World War II.
Okay.
My grandfather was in a concentration camp for 6 years,
okay,
from the time that he was 12 to 18, then spent a year in a hospital before making his way over to Canada. My grandmother escaped the war through the French resistance and was brought over here from Paris to Toronto. So my mom's born, that was the first generation born here. I'm second.
Okay.
So she raised me in Toronto, north of Toronto.
Okay.
All she wanted was to be a mom. That was her goal in life, was to be a mother. I am her only child. She had cancer when I was really young. She had ovarian cancer and wasn't able to have any more children. So I was the focus of her life for a really long time. Yeah. So it took a while for me to make her proud, as I'm sure you've read in some of the articles that have been about me. I struggled a lot as a teenager, but I've pulled through now. So she's super proud. And even when I was going through my struggles, she was always there to try to help me. She just didn't necessarily have the tools.
Did you have your dad there?
No, my dad left when I was 2. My parents divorced when I was 5. He was out of my life by the time I was 6 or 7. But I was raised by my stepfather, who sort of did the best he could as well to be a father. But it's hard to be a stepfather. I think that when a child's left by their biological dad, trying to fill that role gets hard. So.
What do you think that was part of the source of your struggle?
I think so. I internalized a lot. I was the sort of weapon of choice between my mom and my dad in their marriage. And so I think that neither one of them knew how to deal with that. And so from the time I was young, for example, my dad won the right to have me every other weekend for the weekend, and he would pick me up, but he didn't really want me and didn't know what to do with me, so he dropped me off at his sister's house. So I grew up with my little cousins.
And as a child, you know when you're wanted and when you're not.
For sure. And so he didn't really know what to do with me. So I spent the weekend with my cousins, and then he picked me up at the end of the weekend and bring me back to my mom, who wanted me the whole time, but he didn't want my mom to have me, so he would pick me up. And then eventually my mom managed to get those weekends revoked. And I don't know whether it's true or not. According to my mom, he kept trying to kidnap me from school, so she would switch me from school to school, so it wasn't really like stable.
Did you
According
feel
to my dad, I have no idea. According to my dad, he said he
really?
just wanted to see me. I was a kid. I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. So I'm switching to public schools all the time with my mom telling me that it's because my dad's trying to kidnap me. It got really ugly. And then eventually, years later, my dad's like, no, I just wanted to see you, that you were like healthy and you were okay. So I would sit outside the school just trying to like physically see you.
Funny?
So I don't know where the truth is. Somewhere between those two stories, right?
I seen a meme somewhere where it says, somewhere there's a woman that's trying to prove a point, but trying to keep their child away from their father.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want to believe it, but sometimes it's true.
Sometimes it is. And like I said, I don't know where the truth in that was, but I was like the weapon back and forth between them. And so, I didn't have, as an only child, I didn't really have anyone to go to, talk to. And so everything got internalized.
You got no ally.
Nothing. So everything got internalized.
So that's why I relate to you a lot, because I was the only child for the longest time.
Right.
My siblings, I have 2 siblings, but the youngest, second child, my brother, came when I was 11. So for many years, it was just me.
Right.
So I learned to deal with stuff on my own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I understood where you're coming from, and where I see where your growth came from. You know what I mean? So, but yeah. So 14. So what happened? Eventually, what transpired?
So I started acting up, understandably, when I was like 10 and 11. By the time I was 12, I started drinking, I started using drugs. I just didn't really know how to cope with anything. But I was always really good in school. I had good friends, so nobody really knew how to deal with that, right? I wasn't getting suspended. I was always at school, but I couldn't focus. I was just in my own place, and I couldn't really relate to anyone around me. And that sort of just exploded at 12 to 14. I started using drugs, started acting out. And by this point, my mom just didn't know how to help me. It was I was out of control, emotionally. And that's because I really didn't know how to deal with them, right? I had all of this stuff going on for the first 10 years of my life that I didn't really speak to anyone about. And so, the day after I turned 14, she dropped me off at a group home called Youthdale. And I spent a year and a half there, learning to play a different system. It's funny, we talk a lot about the justice system, but the child welfare system is just another system.
I'm going to talk to you about that, by the way, because before you go on, while I was incarcerated, you would not. I did my own research, because I was in care too at one point. When I was, the amount of guys who were once in care before they started getting into any type of crime, they were just once in care, end up in pen. There's a lot of people who were once just. For me, I was being abused by my dad. I was being beaten. That's how I got the group home.
Right.
But it was as soon as I got to that system, it seemed like there's a whole, because one thing I realized with the system is that they feed off of broken homes.
Yeah.
So early on, when it sense, you can't take care of your child, okay, so that means down the line, we're gonna take care of it. You see what I mean?
Absolutely. And that's really for a lot of people, the start of their institutionalization, right? Because you're told when to get up and what to do, and if you don't make your bed properly, you're penalized, but if you do, then you get a chocolate bar, and it's okay, so this is sort of how the system works, and you learn what rules and what stages you need to go through in order to earn your freedom. And by freedom, it could be something so stupid as making a phone call to your friends. And at 15 years old, when you can't make a phone call to your friends or go out to the movies and do normal things.
I remember when I was in a group home, I had to sneak because of my dad.
Right.
I couldn't see my mom.
Right.
So I had to sneak to go meet my mom.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. For the first 10 years of my life, it was always been my mom. Came to this part of the world, within a year and a half, I'm in a group home. So, think about that.
Right.
I went from knowing my mom and then can't be around and I was 12.
Well, yeah, in Youthdale, the first 30 days, you're not allowed any contact whatsoever with your friends or family. So now you're ripped from your home, you're ripped from your family, your friends.
You didn't do anything wrong.
No, sure, I was misbehaving, for sure, but, to be segregated from the people that you still know love you, right? It wasn't a question of like I wasn't being neglected, I wasn't being abused at all. It was, you know, my parents were trying to get me help because they knew that there was like underlying emotional issues that they weren't equipped to deal with. And so, and then of course, there's always a psychiatrist on site willing to dole up medication. And that's probably a whole other conversation. But I certainly saw, like, around me a lot of the kids fall victim to the psychiatrist medication that they were being put on. I was not interested.
So, 14, so you were on your own till when?
So I was in a group home from 14 to 15. Yeah, I was there for a year and a half. So I went from public school in Richmond Hill, okay, like working class, multicultural Richmond Hill, to starting grade 9 at Eastville Collegiate at Broadview and Gerrard.
I know what that is.
So very much urban culture that I knew
Right
nothing about.
Right beside the Don Jail.
Right beside the Don Jail. And thank God I fell in with the right group of friends who taught me everything I needed to know. Because it's a whole different way of life, right? I didn't understand what it was like growing up in Regent Park. I didn't know anything about it, for sure. And I needed to be educated on it. Thank God I liked hip hop and I liked playing basketball. and I had literally
some icebreakers.
I did. I had some icebreakers, and I had people who were just, I guess, curious about me, and they started talking to me, and they started took me into their wing.
Personality helped too.
I hope so, because I saw some girls getting bullied, I saw some girls get picked on, and all I could think is, like, I could easily have been that, right? Here I was, like, suburban Richmond Hill girl in the group home that's thrown into, like, the general population at Eastville Collegiate that I knew nothing about. But I got an education and made great friends and, like, really solid people around me, thank God. And, but, you know, so that was grade 9, and then half of grade 10, and then it was time for me to leave again. So now it's time for me to go back to Richmond Hill, where I can't fit in with anybody there either. Because now they're complaining about shit like their parents won't give them money to go to the movies. And I just saw like what real poverty looked like and what real struggle looked like for young people coming up, you know, in a situation, in a place like Regent Park. And I was like, you don't even know struggle. How can you complain at all? And so I just saw this real distinction.
You could say the instability, the not being stable as a child, got you the advantage to experience different things.
Absolutely.
And that's what helped you shape your path.
Absolutely. You know, as much as there are parts of my life that I wouldn't want to repeat or wish on anyone, I have no regrets. Like, it's shaped my worldview as it is today, and I appreciate that.
If I have to go through what I have to go through to learn it, so be it. Let it be me, though.
Right.
I don't want nobody else to go through
same.
it. Let it be me. You know what I mean? So
same. So then I went back home, and I wasn't really fitting in at school. Other than I used to smoke a lot of weed when I was in high school, so
it's legal now. It's 420,
yeah, for sure. That's true. It's 420 today.
Is it 420 yet?
So I smoked a lot. Yeah, I smoked a lot of weed in high school, and so that was one thing that kids from Richmond Hill and Regent Park have in common. There's always going to be that group. So that's how I sort of made friends. Now, when I was back in high school in Richmond Hill, but you know, the underlying problems that I had gone in for and the disruption in my family home, that never got fixed. And so me and my mom started fighting, and more, because now, you know, it's like when you come out of care, you've got all this freedom and you don't really know how to function. And, you know, I was angry at my parents for putting me there. You know, I can say today I know they did it from a place of love and concern, but as, you know, a 14, 15-year-old kid, that's not how I felt. And so I didn't want to listen to the rules, and I just wanted to go and get high. And that really was what spiraled me out of control. So that by the time I was 17, I had left home. I dropped out of high school. I'd been arrested twice, and I was on the street until I was 19. And that for me really obviously shaped my worldview, because then life just became about basic survival.
So what was it that said, you know what? What day? What incident where you're like, you know what? Okay.
It wasn't necessarily one. It was a few. Just before my 19th birthday, I had a near fatal drug overdose.
Wow.
And so I set
some rules for myself. Drugs?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I set up certain rules for myself to prevent myself from overdosing again.